Hey everybody, thanks for stopping in. Today we're going to go over my 25 books I want to read in 2025. And I know this is a little late, but it's fine. I'm filming this in January, so all's fair, right? So some of my 25 are in here. I actually addressed this in my February TBR, and that is already posted. So if you want to see which ones made it onto that TBR, go over there. I think 3 made it on, 3 or 4 perhaps. So check that out. But without further ado, let's just kind of hop right in. Starting with, and my graphic is over here, by the way, so that's what I'm looking at. I have my list over here and my graphic over here. Book 1 is The Nightmare Before Christmas by Sarah Raish. And this one's actually a buddy read that I still haven't started. My 2 friends and I, they don't read really, but they watched and then read Red, White, and Royal Blue, and they loved it enough that they read the book, and they don't read at all. So this one's kind of had similar vibes that I saw, and it's queer. It's an MM romance. So I kind of forced them into it, and one of them is starting it this week finally. So if we both start it this week, then we can force the third person in our little group to start reading it, right? That's how that works. So that's the first one that immediately went on my 25 in 2025. Second is Queer and Cute, and it's an anthology by queer authors about queer characters. And instead of like a full romance arc, which is traditional in like romance books and romance stories, they're all meet cutes, which if you're not familiar with the term meet cute, it's for writers. It's a plot beat for romance. So it's like that moment that the characters meet each other, and like in a romance, they trip and spill coffee over the other person, or they are the 2 people that inherited this building, but they show up and didn't know that each other also inherited the other half. And like, it's some way that the 2 characters, excuse me, the way that the 2 characters meet, whether for both of their positive reactions and excitement, that cute moment kind of thing, or if it's just like, oh, this is horrible, but it's the start of that love story. I hope that makes sense. So Queer and Cute is queer meet cutes. It's 600 pages of an anthology, and I've been reading it all of last year. I don't remember the exact date that it came out, but I'm about 60% of the way through it, and I just want to finish that up this year because I've started a handful of anthologies and I don't finish them. So I want to finish this one first. Well, I want this one to be finished this year, and hopefully once this one's finished, I can continue on with other ones, but that's by the by. But I think it's 20 different authors that are in there. It has to be more by now. Anyway, 600-page Queer and Cute anthology. Loving it so far. Number 3 is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This is kind of another buddy read. I love Ali Hazelwood. I love paranormal romance, shifter romance. And so when Ali Hazelwood came out with it, I was excited about it. And I'm not scared of the contents, for those of you who know what's going on in this. But my other writer friend heard that I was really excited to read it, and so she's like, okay, cool, we're reading it now, and bought it, and then started reading it. She's like 100 pages into it months ago, like almost a year ago. And she just like sped along without me. And now she's blaming me for being behind. So I put that on my list for this year, and I'm letting her know. I'm probably not getting to this one until at least like March or May, because I'm moving kind of in between those, and I'm busy until March. So that's gonna get read sometime this year, and I'm excited about it. Number 4 is The Pairing by Casey McQuiston. And I think I've only read one Casey McQuiston before. Have I even read a Casey McQuiston? I don't think I have, but I saw this on my book of the month options for the month. And I really liked the pitch. So I'm down. It's queer. It's like a wine tasting tour group thing, and 2 of the people used to know each other or used to date, and now they're kind of like falling for each other again, because the pairing is like the wine pairings, right? So I'm excited to read that one, but I haven't started it yet. I have it physically, but it's home, states away, so I think I got it on audio so that I could read it this year. Number 5 is Down and Dirty by Parker St. John. And it's actually the second book in the Down Home series that's all queer cowboy romances. And I think their 5th one is out now, is kind of where the status is. And the same friend that I'm reading Bride with, she's obsessed with this series, and I read the first one and I enjoyed it. I'm not excited for, I think, the 3rd pairing. Like, it's a bully romance, and I'm not into bully romances, but she swears by it. I at least wanted to read this one because it's Lane's book, and Lane's like a rodeo clown, the best friend of the bull rider in the first book. Like, I'm super excited for this one, and I actually like went and purchased it on an ebook so that I had it when I moved, because I was just borrowing her physical copy, because she'll get a physical copy of everything that she wants to read. That's the kind of reader she is. So she's like on the newest book, like number 5. So I'm very behind. So that one went on my list for this year as well. Moving on to number 6 is Confessions by Kene Minato. And I think this is the only translated work I have in here. Yeah, because I don't often read translated works, but this one was in the Literally Dead book club over a year and a half ago maybe. So Kayla and Gavin and Katie all read it, and I was a really big fan of Kayla and Katie, and I liked Gavin. I just didn't really watch his stuff at the point, but it was like a really great live show. So I know a lot of the spoilers, and it's a horror. It's a short translated horror about a teacher whose daughter was murdered or died, and she knows it was one of her students that did it, so she's like mentally torturing them as vengeance, is kind of the situation. I don't read a lot of horror. I don't read any horror, but I want to try and spice my genre up a little bit. So this is my horror for the year because it had such rave reviews. I have it on audio. I think it's going to be interesting. And it's like 6 chapters, and each chapter is a different POV character. And so it's really interesting to me to be like a character loving reader and character driven writer. And it's like, you only get one. You get one chapter from them, and you'll never hear from their perspective again, is how I understand it. And so I don't know how I'm gonna respond to that format, but I wanna try. So we're going to try this year. I think that's actually one of the ones that got on my February TBR, not to spoil anything, but I'm pretty sure that was the one. So I'm like, I'm so scared to start it. Anyway, number 7 on our list is Murders a Witch by Danielle Garrett. And I actually started listening to Danielle Garrett's, their cozy witch mysteries, so cozy paranormal mysteries. She had a lot of her books available on audio exclusively on Audible. So if you have a premium membership, you can listen to them and download them for free. So that's what I was doing. I listened to 4 of her different books with my mom, 3 of them from the Flower Shop series. I don't remember what it's called, because it's all Beechwood Harbor is the town. So I listened to 3 of those with my mom. I then listened to the second book of a different paranormal cozy mystery small town situation that's not Beechwood Harbor. It was the Mermaids and Meringues book, and I enjoyed that one better than the Flower Shop Beechwood Harbor ones. And so this one, Murders a Witch, is the first book in the Beechwood Harbor ghost mysteries. And so it's about Holly, a witch who lives in a halfway house for paranormals, is kind of the setting. She's a witch. She lives with a vampire and a werewolf and a ghost landlord, like stuff like that, right? So I think she has like 10 books in her series, and I enjoy this one better than that first one I listened to too. And this is actually kind of a prequel series, but it's not. This one came out first. This series came out first. I just listened to a later series. So I'm halfway through this one, really excited to finish it out. Number 8, we're going through these really slowly. I'm gonna try and speed up a little bit. Number 8 is Queer Musings of a One-Time Boy Skater by Joe Bainbridge. And it's a nonfiction queer about someone he was a figure skater. And as someone who's writing a figure skating romance and really wants to do it justice, right? I don't want to just like jump in there blind. I also kind of chatted with Joe Bainbridge just through Instagram or whatever, I think when this, like right when it was coming out. So we interacted a lot then, so that's when I bought it. So gonna try and read this one, probably the earlier the better on this one. Like it'll be in the first 6 months of the year for sure. Number 9 is, let me scroll down. 9 is The Witch King by H.E. Edgman. And I've read the first couple of chapters, but it was like 2 years ago, and I enjoyed it. I was really, really enjoying it, but it was a library hold and it lapsed, like it expired. I'm so bad at like audio library holds, but it's trans main character, I'm pretty sure is the situation. Ran away from his royal duty because obviously the expectations of a trans man are not going to match his identity when you're talking about royalty. So he ran away, made a newfound family, and now his ex-fiance, it's like betrothed, right? Like arranged, tracked him down and is like, you're coming back, we're getting married. I don't care if you're a dude, we're doing it. And that's all I know. Like, so I'm not far at all. I'm like 2 or 3 chapters in, maybe, and I don't remember a lot of it, so I'm gonna start this one back from scratch, but I was enjoying it as it came, and I'm pretty sure at least one sequel has come out since then. I don't know how long the series is, but that one's on the TBR for this year when I get back to it. Number 9, 10. Number 10, yeah, number 10 is Refusing Compulsory Sexuality, a Black Asexual Lens on Our Sex-Obsessed Culture by Sharonda J. Brown. And I've had this one, again, for a couple of years in my digital, like, ebook library, and I've wanted to read it because I'm asexual, and I read Ace by, oh my gosh, Angela Chen. Of course, when I need to recall it, I can't. So Ace by Angela Chen, loved that book. And so this one kind of surfaced at the same time with all of the other Ace nonfiction books I was looking at. So this is the one I want to read first, just because it's his perspective on how prominent sex is in our culture and how it's treated and how it's framed. And it's from a Black woman, which I obviously am white. So I want to learn the other side of the coin, because it was touched on in Angela Chen's book, where I don't really want to speak incorrectly on it, but I still have privilege because I'm a white asexual woman, but there's a difference that I just don't know about. Like, I don't see it, like, especially because of the sexualized, like the fetishization, over-sexualization of Black women in our culture. So I'm really curious how that intersects with an asexual book. I hope that made sense. So that one's definitely one of my nonfictions. I think I put 4 nonfictions on my list for this year, just so that I can like shake things up a little bit. And most of the nonfictions are gonna be queer nonfictions. So next, I think we said number 11 is Next of Kin by Hannah Bonham Young. And this is one of 2 deaf representation. It's either deaf or ASL, this one, because I don't remember the pitch really, except for it's like a sister and a brother. Like it's some sort of like guardianship going on where there's a program that if you are a single guardian trying to get custody of your younger siblings is kind of the situation. And usually if you're a single person, you don't have as good of a chance, unfortunately, as if somebody has a partner in the eyes of the government, right? So there's a program in this book that's like pairing those people up so that there are 2 caretakers in a household. You're just gonna get 2 kids because it's person A's sister and person B's brother that they're taking custody of. So then those 2 people fall for each other. And I know there's some sort of deaf or ASL representation in here, but I just don't remember who. So it might be his younger sibling. I think that's what I'm leaning towards. But as someone who loves American Sign Language and has a minor and has learned about deaf culture and things like that, and who has grown up knowing some of these things, like, I've loved it. So I want to get back into it this year. So that's one of my deaf read books. Number 12 is Heart Trick by Kristen Granada. And it's a shorter book. It's like 200 pages, 180 pages, and it's a hockey romance. And I'm really into hockey. And so I really want to try hockey romances. The only thing, like the line that I'm skating is that so many hockey romances are so sexual, so steamy, like it's such a huge portion of the books. And that's not my preference. Like, I don't mind spice at all. Like, cool. Like, it can be all over my like books, I don't care. But it can get overused a lot. So this one I have been enjoying. I read the first probably 70% of it in October. So finishing that one up this year just because I was enjoying it, because it was shorter, because there's 40 pages left, you know, stuff like that. Number 13 is The Wicked Bargain by Gabe Cole Novoa. And I have been so excited to read this one. It's a trans-masked pirate fantasy kind of narrative. And for one, I haven't read a lot of pirate fantasy. I kind of watched Pirates of the Caribbean when I was younger. I wasn't like super about it just because I was easily scared as a kid. And so like my brother liked Pirates of the Caribbean, and whenever I would want to watch with him, he would just go straight for the Davy Jones episode, like, or the section, and it scared the bejesus out of me. So I didn't watch all of it, but then when I was a little bit older, I went back and watched parts of it, and I was really enjoying it. So I want to try some pirate romance, especially if it's queer. There's a lot of sapphic pirate stuff that I see. Maybe it's just because I have a queer For You page, but this is one of the ones that I've had my eye on since it came out, and I've wanted to read it, but it's hard to convince myself to read things sometimes, because if I want to read it, I will sabotage myself out of reading it for years. That's why I put a lot of these on this list this year, is like, I want to read all of these, so just read them, and you can check boxes off as you read them, because these are like, a lot of these are ones that I've been putting off for that reason. So that's our next one. Then we have another of our nonfictions, which is Polysecure by Jessica Fern. And I can read the subtitle down here: Attachment, Trauma, and Consensual Non-Monogamy. So I'm pretty sure it's nonfiction about polyamory, and I'm curious about it because growing up, all I had heard about is polygamy, and from where my family historically is, that was always no, bad kind of thing. But now polyamory has started popping up in books, and I've really enjoyed reading it. And I don't really want to like say anything else kind of on the matter. I'm trying to test the waters a little bit and see how it goes, because I've enjoyed a lot of poly books and a lot of poly fan fictions and stuff like that. So reading something that's more rooted in reality, because it's either like personal stories or non-fictional essays or something like that. So I'm giving this one a shot, is kind of all I'm saying. That was a long way to say that, but there it is. Number 15. Number 15 is Witch Bond by Lisa Casey. And this is just the second book in the Kitsune Chronicles, and I read the first novel last year and one of the short stories, Witch Minion. That's what I started with, actually, and I love it. It's so it's queer, fox shifter, wolf shifter, alpha, found family, past trauma, like all of that in one. And there's a bakery. So and I really loved the first book, so I just wanted to continue that this year, and again, not sabotage myself out of continuing the series, because she's actually pretty far with it, to my understanding. So there are a lot of books to get through, like to keep going in, so why not keep going? Then we have 16 is Match Game by Brittany Argwin. And there are a couple in here that are sports romances, as you can tell. This one's another hockey romance. And this one, I'm going to Sports Romance Con at the end of February, and Brittany Argwin's gonna be there. And this pitch sounded really fun. So I put it on my list so that I can read it before the convention so that I can go knowing some of the authors and knowing some of the books that are going on and not just going in blind. So that one went on there. Then we have 17 is The Deep by Rivers Solomon. This one is another one I've been sabotaging myself out of reading. It's a short book. Like, my audiobook of it is less than 5 hours. Like, it's pretty short. It's about trans mermaids of color. Like, it's about mermaids, and it's Rivers Solomon's version of mermaids, and nobody really says more than that when they're pitching it, but everyone loves this book. And so I'm just interested at the concept of like mermaids, and I think the situation is that like they just have different genders than humans do. So how does that work? They, you know, have different not economy, but like cultural, operational kind of stuff. So I wanted to read it. It's been on my TBR for years. I'm gonna read it this year. Next is 18, which is The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. And I started this one. It was another library hold that lapsed. I think I only listened to the first chapter, but I thought it was fun. And I really am like, I'm really into nature magic, elemental magic kind of situation in my writing especially. So I want to be reading a lot of those books this year because, again, I sabotage myself out of it. If I know I'll love nature magic, then I will never read a book about nature magic, which means I can never feel like an authority or experienced or justified in writing nature magic. So it's this horrible cycle that I go through and I can't figure out how to break it. So I'm starting it by putting them on my TBR and letting myself read them. And that's not the only one. It's the other one's not on. Oh, it is. Okay. So we'll talk about the other one in a second. Number 19 is Instructions for Dancing. I actually have that one here, by Nicola Yoon. And it's a Book of the Month book. And it's a romance. I think it's Latin representation. It's kind of the situation. Either Black or Latin. But I'm excited for it because I've been wanting to read, because I read a lot of fan fiction, right? I've always read a lot of fan fiction, and I've always loved the dancing AUs, like dancers, dance competition, and baking competition AUs. And so I want to try and read those this year, and that is one of them. So we're gonna try it. Next is number 20. It's Deaf Utopia by Niall DeMarco. And this is my other deaf one, if you couldn't tell. It's nonfiction. I don't know if it would be classified as a memoir. I think it is. Niall DeMarco is one of the big names, like celebrities who are deaf. So it's like Marley Matlin and Niall DeMarco and like et cetera, et cetera. So I'm gonna read that one. Then we have number 21, which is the other one with nature magic. It is The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. And I'm excited to read this one because it's nature magic, it's dryads or just witches, which takes off because they're doing illegal magic with, it's cozy. So it's not like murdering people. It's like, you're not supposed to make tea like that. So they run away to a island and they can't get found out for using illegal magic. And they also have a sentient houseplant, I think is what the situation is. And I think the second one for that series just got announced, and there's a sentient shrub. So obviously there's a theme here and I want to read it. Yeah, that's another one. Number 22 is a newer one to my collection. Okay. Let's uncover it. Paris Dalencourt is about to crumble. And this one is a baking competition. I don't know if it's a competition. Enters him in Bake Expectations, a baking competition. It's queer, it's a romance, it's a baking competition. I had no idea it existed until Black Friday. Like it was, yeah, Black Friday is when Barnes & Noble was having their sale. And I've never read an Alexis Hall. and I'm excited to get into their writing. So this one. Next up, number 23 is The Blood of Olympus by Rick Riordan. Now, technically, I have read this before, but just from the timing, right? Because when I was 12, I started reading Percy Jackson. There's the 5 Percy Jackson and the Olympians books, then there's the 5 Heroes of Olympus books, and now the third of 5 of the rest of the Percy Jackson books, another 5 are coming out. And there have been a couple other series that he's done. It's middle grade mythological fantasy. But I started it when I was 12 and the character was 12. And I read and I binged and I reread and I binged. And I went through those first 10 that we were talking about, the Percy Jackson and Heroes of Olympus. Blood of Olympus is the final one in the Heroes of Olympus series, and I have read it, but I read it right when it came out, and I was like flickering out into, because I go into stages, right? So it's like fandom stages, craft stages, project stages. I had just gotten really busy. I had just started taking college classes as a high schooler, so I don't remember anything about the Blood of Olympus, which means, and I've been wanting to like reread all of the things, right? And I have The Sun and the Star, which is a gay one-off novel. And I have, anyway, I want to catch up. I want to reread. I want to enjoy it all again. So if I can read one Percy Jackson book a month, then I should be able to get to the Blood of Olympus by the end of this year, because it's the 10th. If I don't read the Demigod Files and the Demigod Diaries. So I'll figure it out. Maybe I'll read 2 in 1 month so I can catch up or something, but that's on here because I feel like I haven't read it before, even though I technically did. So gonna try it, even though I know spoilers. It's fine. Number 24 as another physical one. Can you tell I'm trying to read down my physical TBR a little bit? Anna Maria and the Fox by Liana de la Rosa. And this is another book of the month book that I have, and it's kind of Latin historical fiction, or historical romance is kind of the situation. And I've been wanting to read it since it came out because it sounds so fun. Mr. Gideon Fox. That's what I'm wanting to read. I don't know if it's a marriage of convenience trope or what exactly the situation is with them, but this is going on to my 25. And lastly, here's our last one for the year list, is another one at the bottom, is X's and Foes by Amanda Woody. This is the only YA, well, except for Percy Jackson, that's gonna be on my list, because I don't read a lot of YA for various reasons, but this pitch sounded too good. And it's queer, and the kind of situation is that these two are besties. They have been besties forever. It's fine because they're both bi, but they like different their types are different. Enter this one. She comes into school, she starts, and then they both have a crush on her. They both know that they both have a crush on her. So they're like, well, first one that wins a kiss, you get to date her, and then we're all gonna be friends, we're all gonna be good, there's gonna be no bad blood kind of thing, and it ends in polyamory. So that's the idea. I'm excited to read it, so I went ahead and put it on there. Again, besides Percy Jackson, this is the only YA on the list, but I thought I would put it on there to try it out. And that wraps up my 25 books I want to read in 2025. If you've read any of these books, please let me know your thoughts on them so that I can know what I'm getting into or be super excited for other ones. But I would love to hear from you and start some conversations and see how this year goes. I would love to be ticking off 2 or 3 of these every month. So let me know which ones to tick off. And we're gonna kind of go from there. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out and chatting about the list with me. What are your lists? And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.